Hi, this is Pastor Ed from Speed Memorial Church, and just a thought for our midweek, something to chew on while we're going about our daily business, and thought about Jesus. You know, at the end of Matthew, Jesus said something interesting. He said, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me," which is a bold statement. And you know, you look around at the world, and it always doesn't make sense when you read some of the headlines or you see some of the circumstances that you're in right now in your life, some of the physical pain, emotional pain, spiritual befuddlement, and trying to figure out, well, how does this relate to Jesus having all authority? Because when I think of authority, I think of there's nothing between me and my objective. I have the authority to do whatever I want, basically. And so I'm not sure if that's the proper way to interpret what Jesus was saying, like it's my way or the highway kind of thing, because authority is interesting. Just the concept of authority and how it works out in our lives as we interact with each other and with society. And somebody once told me, I read it or I heard it, when they were trying to explain authority, and they had heard it from somebody else, and you know how it works. But they told me to think about a stop sign and why we stop at a stop sign, which I've thought about. I stop because I don't want to get in a crash. I don't want to hurt anybody, and I don't want to be hurt. That's the two rules of driving: is don't hit anything and don't let anything hit you, and everything else you can pay for. But a stop sign really at its core is just, a piece of metal, maybe aluminum, painted red with, in English, it's STOP. And we come to a stop at it, and it's on a wooden pole, usually at a corner or somewhere. And it's just, why do we stop besides the fact that we have been trained to stop there? And it's just, the stop sign carries an amount of authority over us when we're driving or when we're walking. Any time you see it on the street, your inclination is to stop. And so where does the stop sign's authority come from? Because it's just an inanimate object. And if you stop and think about it, it's the force that's behind it, the entity behind it, that gives it its authority. See, if I run a stop sign because of the government and its rules, whatever municipality is right above that, they have the right to fine me. They have the right to incarcerate me. There's a lot of different ways they could take out your reluctance to stop. There's a lot of ways they could penalize you. And that's where the authority for the stop sign comes from. It's not inherent in the stop sign itself. It's what's behind it that enforces the notion of stopping. It's an image of the government behind it. And so when I think what Jesus is saying is we are born as images of God. We are an image of God, all humans. And we all bear that intrinsically inside of us. We're images of God. And so when Jesus says he has all authority, I think what he might be saying is that if we act in accordance with his kingdom and his government and the message that he brought to us, then his authority will work through us to bring efficacy to it, to bring the results to fruition. It'll flourish in our relationships when we use Jesus' kingdom, because the authority that he has is triggered, if you want to put it in that way, by how we act with each other. Like if you see in Matthew 5 when he's talking about the Beatitudes and how his kingdom is, one of the components is peacemakers. Blessed are the peacemakers. And so when we're trying to facilitate peace, when we're trying to facilitate unity, we have the authority of Jesus working through us, and we are acting as images of his kingdom. We are living images. And so we're We're not like a stop sign. Other than we have authority. Our authority comes from something greater than ourselves. And so when we are trying to facilitate peace, then the authority of Jesus Christ is going to make it effectual. It's going to give us that push. It says those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. That's another component of Jesus' kingdom. And so if you have that desire for justice, if you have that desire for righteousness, if you have that desire for fairness inside of you, then that's something you want to play on. That's something you want to explore because that has the authority of Jesus behind it. There's a power, a spirit behind it. And when you act on that desire, as uncomfortable as it can be, it has Jesus's validation working through you to affect the other person or to affect the situation in ways that you may not even recognize. And so it says in the Bible too, in Philippians, it says, we're supposed to have the same attitude that Jesus had, where you're willing to surrender your rights sometime, where you're willing to take a step back or take a breath, or you don't have to post everything online. You can just go to a friend, and not everybody has to know. Not everybody has to hear your opinion. There's no validation there. But if it'll soothe the situation, if it'll calm down something between you and another person, if you allow a little space for a conversation, or you allow a little space for thinking, or, let's just meet tomorrow over a cup of coffee. You have the power and the Spirit of Jesus working through you to make that move authoritarian. You have power there. And we have an unbridled amount. When we look for peace or we look for patience, it talks about one of the spiritual fruits, if you will, is self-discipline, self-control, the ability to monitor ourselves and not have to be right all the time. That comes with the power of Jesus. That's the Spirit of Jesus working through you. So when you have that pause inside of you that is looking to be enacted, when you feel like you've got to say something, then you just take a breath instead. And you make your main goal peace. That's Jesus. That's the authority of the world. That's the authority of the universe acting inside of you. And Jesus said he had all the authority in heaven and on earth in a way that when people come to you as an image of God, when you act in accordance with Jesus' doctrines of patience and peace and faith and love and unity, then you have the power of the universe working through you. You have the Spirit of Jesus working through you. And I think that's going to be, I think if I'm able to employ that during the day when things get a little tense, if I'm able to use that and recognize that inside of myself during the day in any interaction that I'm having, I think that will help me stay calm. And I think that I'll further and more deeply enjoy the peace that Jesus promised me and promised you. I think that's what he wants for all of us, is the unity, the love, and the togetherness to take care of each other and to reveal to the people around us the tenets of his kingdom. I hope you guys have a great day, a great week, and I hope this has given you something to think about.